Hello and welcome to this episode of Classic Country Conversations. And I am pleased to be here today with Diane Diekman. Diane is the author of this wonderful book, Live Fast, Love Hard, the Faron Young story. And it's all about Faron Young. I was honored to be the narrator of this wonderful book. And it's a terrific book about the life of a man who was the top, or certainly one of the top five country stars of the late 50s and early 60s. And Diane, I'm amazed when I talk to country music fans today, how many don't even know who Faron Young was or much about him. And he was a megastar in the late 50s and 1960s, yet forgotten today. Why do you think that is?
I think it was largely because Farron stayed in his box, his niche. His fans wanted him to sing country music, and he loved country music, and that's what he stayed with. When you compare him to people like Johnny Cash and Willie Nelson, they went out and sang other types of music. They sang with a lot of other people, and a lot of their fans didn't like that either because they thought they're getting away from country. So Farron stuck with what his fans wanted, and therefore he did not expand into other markets like they did because those people didn't hear him through their preferred singers. He didn't do duets or anything like that, like Johnny and Willie did.
Did Farron think of that as selling out if he were to leave country and go into pop, or is it just something he just didn't want to do?
It's probably something he just didn't want to do, like he easily could have. I mean, he imitated Dean Martin. He could sound just like Martin. He could sing like Perry Como, but he never seemed to be interested in singing with any of them, duetting with them, or any of the women who were the pop stars at that time. Although he liked them all and liked their singing, he didn't seem to express any interest to record with them.
And arguably, Farron had a more of a better voice that was more geared toward pop music than Willie Nelson or Johnny Cash. I listened the other day to a great CD. I think it's long since out of print, of Farron live in Branson, and he does this rendition of "After the Lovin'" by Engelbert Humperdinck. And he jokes about his name and everything, and it's fine. But he sounds every bit as good as an Engelbert
Yeah.
Humperdinck. It's fascinating. He could have done well with that if he had wanted to, right?
Right. He could have. He certainly did have the voice for it. And he had the mannerisms. He could do that. And he grew up as a child. He liked all those pop singers. And that was his music before he got into country.
Yeah.
But he found his niche in the hard country with the steel guitars and fiddles and such.
Did he ever have any rock and roll leaning music? I know in the late 50s, real early 60s, before the Nashville Sound came out, there were a lot of country singers who tried to put out rock and roll because the fear was everything was going to rock and roll, which eventually it didn't. But did Farron ever cut any rock and roll like tunes?
Oh yes, definitely. Like everybody else, they considered it survival. They were trying to get into that market. They were worried that country music was going to die. Farron and Marty Robbins both had those strings of hits. Farron had The Locket, and I can't recall offhand what some of his other songs were, but he was in later years embarrassed that he had sung that kind of music. But there are photos of him sliding across the floor on his knees like those teen singers did. So yes, he had that period where he sang that type of music.
Okay, last question. And this is just really, I think, more so your opinion and my opinion on this because I don't really know that there's an answer. But someone else who never went over to pop music and stayed country was George Jones. For the most part, he had a couple of rock tunes himself as Thumper Jones in the late 50s. But George Jones never went pop. Yet he remained more popular than Faron in his later years. I don't know why that would be. Do you have any theories on that?
Well, he did do some of that rock type stuff also
Yeah,
as George Jones and uh the but I guess he did it more, and perhaps it was his producers. It's came across more country style. I'm not sure.
yeah,
There again, George Jones. Well, I'm not sure if he expanded so much with his singing partners, but his lifestyle got him a lot of attention, and that's one of the reasons why people knew him because of the drugs and the alcohol and
yeah,
all his escapades kind of gave him a name. And I guess perhaps they considered those fun, whereas Farron's escapades, his alcoholic were escapades were more violence and nastiness of an abusive alcoholic. So that didn't get him a following
right.
as a lot of George Jones stuff did.
That's a good point. And of course, George Jones also, unlike Farron, did a lot of duets, famously
Yes.
with Tammy Wynette, which, was part of the fable and the stories. But, I'll tell you what, this is a good segue into this point. Farron, like George Jones, did have a rough and tumble life with alcohol. And most people don't know the story, but here's the way to get the story. And you'll read this book as I did. I've read it a number of times before I reached out to Diane and said, I love your book. Could I please narrate it? I've only done that 3 times in my career. And when I read the book, what I was fascinated about, I was reading the book thinking, Farron's life was every bit as crazy, let's just say, and sad and up and down as George Jones's was. It's just nobody knows about it. So when you read this book, you're going to just be amazed. If you haven't read it yet, I highly urge you to go to Amazon, download the audio book, or buy the hard. Diane, is it still in hardcover and paperback on
No,
Amazon?
it's soft cover only, but it
Okay.
is still in print.
Excellent. Okay, and the name of the book again, Live Fast, Love Hard: The Faron Young Story, available on Amazon, and you'll just love it. Author Diane Diekman, thank you so much, and thanks for all you do.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the conversation.
Take care.